Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for what promises to be a very energizing and practical session. We know that your time is very valuable, and we are very excited to have you here with us today. My name is Ramona Macinetti. You might already know me. And my guest today truly embodies the phrase moving the ball forward. Jennifer A. Garrett is an internationally recognized branding and commercial growth strategist, creator of the Move the Ball movement, and the host of the globally known Move the Ball podcast. And also, she is the author of 2 books, which are Move the Ball, How American Football Can Help You Achieve Your Life Goals, and Dominate the Game, How Life Changes When You Show Up. So thumbs up, everybody who's in already, people who are happy that the football season started, give me a quick thumbs up, please. Yeah, there you go. There are a couple of football fans here. So Jen works with executives, professionals, and pro athletes to help them build their powerful brands, unlock momentum, and achieve their goals. She's also a mom of 5 and holds 7, no kidding, 7 college degrees, which is so incredible. Jen, I already talked a lot. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Ramona. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with all of you, and hopefully we're going to move the ball together.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. In this session, you will be sharing with us how to move forward with clarity, discipline, and also confidence. And our audience will learn how to protect their energy so they can focus on really matters most. And I encourage everybody to take notes and engage in the Q&A throughout the session. It's the little round bubbles below the chat, so send your questions for Jennifer at any time. And with that said, I would like to get started. I posted a question in the chat in the very beginning, and I ask you to think about what was the last time you gave yourself permission to stop waiting for the perfect moment and just take action to move things forward. Post your answer in the chat, please. Let me have a look. So there's a lot of hello, people joining from all over the place. That's great. But give me your answers. What was the last time you gave yourself permission to stop waiting for the perfect moment and just take action to move things forward? Jennifer, maybe you want to go ahead. Share your story.
So I mean, for me, I think it's interesting as we continue on in our lives, like we learn that nothing goes as planned. It's not a linear journey, right? Things happen throughout our lives that cause us to pivot and take turns. And for me, I was in Fortune 50 big companies for a long time, loved my corporate experiences, and I thought I was going to be there my entire career. My dad passed away very unexpectedly in November of 2016. And that was a turning point for me because I started really thinking about how when we go, all of these accomplishments, Ramona, you had mentioned some of my background earlier, that I have 7 degrees and, I've done some great things. I've led multi-billion-dollar deals in the corporate space. But what I realized after my dad passed was when it's my turn to go, no one's going to care about those things. It's really about the legacy that you leave. And so I was thinking about, what do I want that to be? And I ended up spending a couple of years thinking about that. And on November 5th, 2019, which would have been my dad's birthday, I ended up leaving corporate behind. It was the hardest decision I ever made. And, started on this new journey to really build out this Move the Ball movement and make this my legacy. And so for me, I just think a lot about, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you are trying to find your way, you have to give yourself that permission because there is no perfect moment. There's never going to be perfect circumstances. So you have to have the confidence to believe in your ability to figure things out. Confidence is not, I have all the answers. It's about, I believe that no matter what comes in front of me, I will figure it out. I will pull in the right people to help me move forward. And I've got this. And so for me, that's what it was really about, is being intentional and figuring out, no matter what the circumstances of the day was, how can I give myself that permission to take that courage and move forward? And keep in mind, I mentioned I left November 5th, 2019. What happened a few months after that was COVID, and the whole world shut down. And I had people reaching out saying, oh my gosh, Jen, what now? And I'm like, no, I'm going to double down on myself. I left to go do this. And so even though we have the world falling apart around us, I am going to make a great story out of this because I believe in my ability to get through this and figure it out. And that's really what Move the Ball is about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I'm just reading the answers of our audience. There are a lot of courageous people out there. Somebody posted it was yesterday when they did that without specifying what they did. Somebody moved across the country within 45 days. So yeah, there are a lot of comments. Thank you for sharing, guys. Jennifer, tell us more. The Move the Ball mindset. What is it about exactly? I mean, you already told a bit of the story, but please give us more detail.
Yeah, so I think a couple of big things. One, it's really about challenging yourself to look at, am I being a spectator in my life, or am I being, to use a American football analogy, am I being the quarterback? Really looking at, how do I move the ball? How do I take command? How do I take control? I have a team around me to help me, but it really starts with you. And I find so many people aren't viewing things that way. They think, oh, my manager is going to help me, get that next job, or someone else is looking out for my career, or, there's other things that are coming into play and I'm just going to take the day as it comes, versus being intentional and strategic and having a playbook, if you will, on how are you going to achieve your goals. And that can be anything. It's not just about your career or the business setting. It's whatever goals that you have, personal ones, travel, family, spiritual, all of it. But it starts with you taking command of that and ownership, and then figuring out, what do you need to do to drive things forward. And then I guess I'll just say one other thing too. I mentioned that my dad passed away unexpectedly. My mom also passed away very unexpectedly in December of this past year, which just reinforced the concept about how tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us. And, we talked about the Move the Ball movement. I published Dominate the Game, the newer book, a couple years ago. And there's a chapter in there that is all about tomorrow is never promised. And so it's really about challenging people to think about, what am I going to do today to make progress on the things that are important in my life and my business and my career, whatever it is. And, not taking a day for granted, because we don't know. We've seen so many events recently where, unfortunate things have happened. So you just never know when your time is up. So it's really about viewing each day as a blessing and winning every day by taking action on the things that matter.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. I mean, and in times that change, where things change so fast. I mean, I'm not thinking worst case here, but just saying, like, in your lives, in your career, things change so fast. So today is always a good moment, I guess. So for someone looking to build momentum in their daily lives, in their career, what would be one simple daily action that can help them start adopting the Move the Ball mindset?
Yeah, I mean, so first, it's viewing yourself as that quarterback, I think, is the first thing, and looking at how you can take the right action to move forward. Now, the thing that people often confuse is they think, well, I'm busy, so I'm being productive. But don't confuse busyness with productivity or progress, because you need to make sure that you're focused on the right things. And that's where that intentionality comes into play. And we'll talk more about that, because some of these things that we'll talk about, I'm sure some people watching are thinking, well, it's easier said than done. So I want to make sure I'm also incorporating some practical examples on how you can do these things as we go into our session today. But I think, one thing I would share with people is giving yourself permission to do a few things. One, to believe in yourself. So many people doubt themselves, are lacking that confidence. Remember, my definition of confidence is you believe in your ability to figure it out. Not that you know it all, not that you have doubt, but you will figure it out. So that's the first part. And then it's giving yourself permission to go all in, right? And to take those courageous moves on whatever it is you're looking at doing. When I shared my story, I talked about being in corporate. But I didn't share that I've also built a globally known brand in professional sports, which is a male-dominated industry. It's very difficult to break into. And I started with no industry contacts. I knew nobody. So how did I get to do that? It's because I took those bold moves. I was willing to bet on myself. And, did everything work out as planned? Absolutely not, right? Did everybody that I reached out to say, yeah, Jen, let's have a chat? No. Were there people that didn't see my value? Absolutely. Were there people that told me I was wasting my time? Yes. And so it's really about you betting on yourself. And even if there are naysayers, you still have that courage to continue forward with whatever you're doing. And then I would say it's important to give yourself permission to be authentic, because we know that nobody achieves their success alone. It does take a team to move the ball, and the right people will gravitate towards you when you lead with authenticity and you're not afraid to show who you are, and you're genuine and you're authentic in who you are and what you believe in. The right people will be attracted to you. And then the last part is to give yourself permission to fail forward, right? Take those actions. If it doesn't work out, take the learnings and you keep moving forward. Not everything's going to work out. We know this, but embrace that, accept that, and realize that that is a necessary part of your progression.
So it's really a mindset shift, basically. Would you say there's any add-on if you think about a professional environment? Are there other important mindset shifts that professionals should, undertake?
Well, I think one thing that we get so caught up with in the professional setting is that we're in a business. And so everything has to be about the business versus thinking about the relationships of the people we're working with and connecting on a human level, connecting with people as people. The business is there and you're all going to work together, right? But you will find less resistance, especially if there's competing priorities or conflicting things, if you have strong relationships with all the stakeholders that you're working with, whether those are people on your team, in other departments. One of the things that I was always mindful of doing is building strong relationships and connecting with people. So the strong relationships wasn't just built on, hey, you asked me to do this task, I did it for you. It was about getting to know them on a human level. And I mean, there's so many things there too, not just the human element, obviously connecting to purpose and things like that. But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people miss is in the business setting, it's all about transactional stuff, and it's not. They're all people. We all, have the same way that we, put our pants on, right, and do things. And so let's not forget about the human elements of going to work too.
Yeah. Could you share like a real world example where that really made a difference?
Yes. So, well, I'll share two, because I think one is about the relationship specifically, and then more about just kind of the mindset that I think is helpful too. And I think it's a great story. So about relationships, when I was in the corporate setting, so two of my degrees are in engineering. So I did work in engineering roles earlier in my career. And I was a manager of several teams that were responsible for hardware and software integration and test for a U.S. Army Department of Defense contract. And we were under very tight timelines. We had many deliverables that we were waiting on from other companies, as well as internal teams to the company. And people kept slipping their deliverables. And so we had to really become creative, because our customer told us, you will not slip your deadline. We need this. And so you will make it happen. And so by having great relationships with these teams, looking at how can we be innovative, how could we condense all the tasks that we needed to do without really increasing risk into our testing schedule, but working collaboratively and having good relationships with each of these teams really helped drive innovation, creative thinking, other ways of trying to achieve the objective, so that we could. And I was on the phone every morning at 6:40 in the morning. I was in California at the time, and I was briefing the entire leadership of the company about such a high visibility program. And so there was a lot of pressure to get this right. And there were people that didn't think we were going to do it. And at the end of the day, we made our delivery. And that was just a testament to the great people that I got to work with. But it was the relationships. And so that's why it's so important to have, those connections on a human level. I mean, yes, you've got people who report to other people. And by definition, because of that positional authority, yeah, they should, be doing the tasks that you asked. But if you connect on a human level, people will go the extra mile. If you show people that you care about them as human beings, that's how you move the ball. It's not just about doing the work task. So that's one example. Another example I want to share, which is outside of the work setting. So I'm on LinkedIn, as many on this webinar probably are. And one day I got a notification that someone had tagged me many years ago. And in the post was a photo of a gentleman who had his cap and gown on. He was not a 22-year-old graduate. He was in his 40s, and he had just graduated college. And in his hand was, along with his cap on his head and his diploma that they give you to hold, was a copy of my book. And in there, in the post, he talked about how, he had 4 daughters. He was a young father, started having children younger in his career. Nobody in his family had gone to college. He was in the car one day talking with his daughter. This wasn't in the post, but I know his story. He was talking to his daughter one day about how she really needed to go to college and get a degree. And he told her that he would finish college before she did. And so in the post was a picture of him graduating. He graduated one day before his daughter.
Well, that's determination.
Yeah. And he wrote it. He's like, Jennifer, hey, Garrett, he's like, we, don't just read your words, we live by them. And so I asked him, I was like, what was it about the Move the Ball movement or the book that really helped you? And he was like, it's the mindset shift of focusing on how you can move forward every single day, no matter what, just making that incremental progress. And in the book, there is a chapter called The Next First Down. And what this is about is we have these goals. We have big goals, and sometimes they seem overwhelming. So what you can do is you can break them out into smaller milestones. In the book, I call them first downs, because for those who know about American football, what happens in a football game is teams are trying to move 10 yards, or they're trying to get the next first down, which is 10 yards. And then they keep doing that, or at least 10 yards, so that they can move down the field and then score a touchdown or a field goal, but so they can put points on the board. But the point is, they're not focused on trying to score a touchdown every single play. They're focused on how do I move a little bit down the field, right? And you have to do it in 4 downs. You have to get that next first down. So how that applies off the field to us is you need to break down your goals into smaller first downs and focus on the plays and the actions you need to take to get to that milestone. Forget about the bigger picture, but just focus on the smaller things. And so that's what he did. There were times he mentioned that he just wanted to quit. He was like, I'm done. But he's like, I just, came back to just focusing on the smaller piece. And when you do that consistently, that's when you're going to accomplish the goal.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I always have the picture of the mountain in front of me, because that's my thing, outdoors. But you go step by step. You never, approach the whole mountain. And it's like a bit of elevation and a bit more until you reach the peak.
Right.
Yeah, very nice. People in the audience can relate. Somebody said that connection is so powerful. And I also can see how that mindset shift is such a powerful foundation. So once we have that, the next step is gaining clarity about what we are going to do, about how we make decisions. Let's talk about clarity as a competitive edge for a moment. So
Sure.
When work feels overwhelming, what strategies can professionals use to separate what truly matters from what's just, as you mentioned in the beginning, busy work?
Right. Yes. So clarity is everything. If you don't know what the priorities are or where you need to go, then it's hard to make progress on the right things because you're not clear on what those right things are. So it's very important to make sure you understand in the business setting, as an example, what are the priorities of the business? In many corporations, you have at the beginning of the year conversations with your manager. You should, right? About what are the priorities of the business and what is my role in those priorities and what do I need to do? If you don't know that, that's the first step. You've got to understand what are the things that matter to the business. And then you have to look at, okay, how am I spending my time each and every day? In my Dominate the Game book, there is a chapter called Managing the Game Clock, which is all about how in sports, teams manage effectively to the time that's left on their game clock. In football, 60 minutes of play, right? So they're looking at how do I leverage whatever time is left, depending on what the score looks like, what the picture looks like. Are we winning? Are we losing? By how much? All of that plays into how you manage that game clock. In the work setting, you have to look at where are we at relative to where we're going with business. What do I need to get done? How do I effectively manage that time? But it starts with being clear on what is it that you need to do, right? To what are the priorities that you're trying to take action towards, and then making sure that your calendar is aligned with that. So here's a practical tip. So something that I talk about a lot is the power of no. You need to look at the things that are on your calendar and say, are these things serving the priorities of this week, this month, whatever it is? If those things are not, can you shift them? Do they have to be done this week? Right? Because oftentimes we get so stressed out and we're feeling overwhelmed because there's all these things on the calendar. There's always going to be more tasks than what you have time for. So it's really about prioritization and looking at, what do I need to get done today? Are the things on my calendar important today, or can I shift it? So if somebody says to you, Ramona, I need you to do this for me today, and you're like, oh, I have other things I'm doing, you should have a great relationship with that person that you can say, do you really need this today? Can I get it to you tomorrow or whatever day? Because I'm really, really swamped. I've got to get these things done, and have that conversation. Now, there might be a time where they say, well, two things. One, they would say, you know what? No, get it to me next week. That's great. Because everyone has this false sense of urgency. I need it right now, right now. Do you really need it right now? It's not pushing back to be difficult. It's collectively saying, hey, I've got these other things that I need to do. I want to make sure that you're taken care of. But if you don't need it right now, I would love some extra time to get that to you, right? Now, what happens if they say, no, I need it today? And you're like, okay, well, then there's another conversation that should be had with your manager or other people. Say, okay, this person asked me for this. I've got these other tasks. Something's got to give. What can we do? And there might come a case where you just got to put in the extra work and you got to stay later or whatever. That happens, but that should not be the norm. If you effectively communicate with people, there's a way to do it where you're taking off the items that are not the priority of the day. You're still meeting the needs of the team. It's just at a little bit different timeline that still is okay with what their timeline is, right? But have the conversation. Or sometimes there might be a meeting that you're added onto and you're like, am I bringing value to this meeting, right? Again, have the conversation like, hey, do you really need me? It's not trying to be difficult. It's just trying to be efficient, right? And making sure that we're all spending time on the right things. So I would say those are some things that I would encourage people to just challenge you to have the courage to have that conversation if you're in that situation. Another thing that is helpful for me that I do is every night I think about the next day and I say, okay, what are my priorities for the day? And what are the things that I need to get done? And so that's how I block time out for those things. I don't have my phone by me. Sometimes I'll turn the phone on silent. If I don't turn the phone on silent and I get a notification or someone's calling, I might look at it. I am not going to respond. If I'm in the middle of something and it's not an emergency, I'm going to put it down and I will come back to it when I'm done. Couple reasons for that. One, if you answer that, now you have just checked out of your priority and you're checking into someone else's world and their agenda, right? You can do that, but be conscious about, yes, I'm doing this because I need to do that. Or you know what? I'm going to pause and I'm going to take care of what I need to get done. And then I'll respond to them in 15, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, right? But don't just be we're so quick to someone text us, oh, let me just respond. No. Don't do that, because then it also takes time for you to reset to what you were doing. Oh, what was I doing? Let me get back. It's just a few minutes or a few seconds, but it all adds up. So have that
distracting, yeah.
Right. So if you are focused on something, stay focused on it and then deal with whatever email you get in or whatever someone's texting you when you're done so you can complete the task. But going back to this, so I plan out what I want to do every night. The next morning, I wake up and I don't check social media. I don't check email right away. And here's the reason why. Studies have shown if you do that, you are 30% less productive. Again, because you're checking out of your plan and into someone else's world and you're wasting time. The only exception to that is if you were in the business of social media or you're an influencer and that's your thing, well, then maybe you do that because that's part of your business. But for everybody else, right, Don't start with that. Start with thinking about your plan, reviewing what did I put on my list the night before? Are these still the priorities? Because something could have come up, right? And if so, then you adjust. But it's really about being intentional. It's a word I talk about a lot. Intentional and making sure it aligns, the things that you've put on there align with your values and align with what you are looking to do for that week.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's very good advice. Thank you. Somebody commented before when we started talking about clarity that the why purpose, that's super important to them. So say you have your career goals figured out, and then you have your personal values. What do you do so both feel connected and all together purposeful?
Yes, ideally that's what you want, right? You want your values to align with what you're doing on the day-to-day for your job, because most of your time is spent working, right? So make sure they're aligned. If they're not aligned, then maybe there's some things you need to be thinking about. Is it time to make a change? And sometimes things change because our priorities or what's important to us also changes, but you need to continually be reassessing that because you want to make sure that your values, your personal values, align with the why of the organization. Because if there is a disconnect, you're not going to be as productive, you're not going to be happy at work, and all of that carries over to the rest of the team. You are your best at work when you feel your best, right? And so that's including taking care of yourself and all that too. But you want to make sure that you are in alignment with the why of the organization, of the company, and the products or services that company provides, because then it makes you feel good. You're excited to go to work, right? Because there is this alignment and you want to do a good job. You want to see your coworkers. You want to really move things forward. And if you're not feeling that way because that misalignment, then the productivity will show. Maybe not initially, but over time, because you're going to be disconnected from that organization after a while when you're not feeling like, why am I here? This doesn't align with what is of interest to me or my values. And then eventually that work is going to be compromised.
Yeah, that makes absolutely sense. Exactly. So we are clear about our goals now.
Yes.
What practical tools or habits can help someone bring more clarity into their day-to-day decision-making? You mentioned that you check off social media, that you think about your next day, the day before. Is there, like in the professional environment, say in the office, like in your day-to-day work, is there more, like really, things that people can take back to their desks?
Yeah, I mean, so we talked a little bit about, staying focused on the tasks, right? I want to just share here too. It's not another habit, but it's another way to think of it, which I've gotten feedback from many people before is a great way to think about. We've seen memes or posts about how in today's day and age, where there's so many distractions, being able to focus is a competitive advantage. And you mentioned earlier, Ramona, that I have this podcast called Move the Ball. And in season 1 of the show, we're in season 6 now, we had a guest on the show by the name of JJ Burden. And JJ had played in the NFL for I think 8 or 9 years. And something he said about focus is you want to protect your focus as if it's $1 million suitcase. Because if you got a suitcase with $1 million in it, you're making darn well sure that no one else is giving that away, right? And the other thing he said was when somebody asks for your time, this is again thinking about that power of no. When someone asks for your time, think of it as if if you say yes, think of it as if you're taking out your wallet and you're giving them money, because time is money and that's what you're doing. So you want to think a little bit harder about, am I going to say yes to this thing? So we already talked about a case where someone is tasking you with something, but let's say somebody wants to have you volunteer for a project, right? And so you really need to think about, does this project align with either my values or with my career aspirations? Will it be helpful? Will I be able to bring value, or is it just additional busy work? And so what is it for? What's the benefit? Not only to you, from a career standpoint, maybe it's more visibility or what have you, but are you the right person to bring value to the organization? And if not, then that's not the right thing. So think about, what are you giving your time to? And are you giving your time in the right places, right? That I just find so many people aren't really thinking about that. They just say yes to stuff because they want to be viewed as a team player or someone who says yes, but are you saying yes to the right things? So I think that's an important thing. I think another thing that's important is so in my Move the Ball book, there's a chapter or there's a section called Mad Pride. Mad Pride is an acronym that I came up with that is 8 elements or attributes of really great leaders that separate them from everybody else, or really high performers. And there's a couple things I want to talk about here. One is the I stands for improvement focused. And those people that continue to excel in careers and do well are people that are always curious and never want to stop learning and are looking at how can I improve. So you always want to be someone that is looking at how can I do better? What can I do? What can I learn to make me more marketable, to be more of an expert in the field that I'm in so that people know me as the expert? And that way opportunities will come my way also because I'm viewed in that light. I mean, something that a lot of the pro athletes that I work with and I talk about is, getting 1% better every day. And so just focusing on that incremental improvement, right? Not being complacent, not being stagnant, looking at how do I continue to improve. And it's not just necessarily in terms of competencies, but even when it comes to my tasks. Are there ways that I can be more efficient at something? Learning, AI is a big thing today. Are there AI tools that my organization allows us to use that I should be leveraging to help me be more efficient in my day-to-day tasks? So that's one thing. Another thing in this Mad Pride acronym is the last E stands, or there's only one E. The E stands for energy that energizes. And the energy that you bring into the workplace, whether you physically go into the office or you are a remote employee, the energy that you bring to communicate and interact with other people is infectious. And there's a book that I read a long time ago. It's called How Full Is Your Bucket? And it talks about how the energy you bring can either fill people's buckets up and lift them up and help them to continue to be productive, or you can take away from people's bucket by bringing the negative energy. And you might not intentionally be doing it, but just having that negativity can drag down so many other people. So what I tell people is think about the energy you're bringing into every space. And are you bringing energy that's lifting people up and challenging them and pushing them to want to move forward? Or are you being that negative Nancy? And it's okay to identify issues and things, but you can still do it in a way that is not dragging the team down, right? So I just want to challenge people to think about what kind of energy am I bringing every day? Is it something that fosters an environment where people want to do better and want to really push and be creative, be innovative, and take things to the next level? Or am I one of those people that maybe, if I'm honest with myself, maybe I'm holding people back because I'm not bringing the energy that I should? So I think that's an important thing to think about too. And then lastly, I would say, one of the things that when you look at competitive athletes that makes them really great and that makes them great employees also is they will show up every day, whether they feel like it or not. They're going to show up ready to do what they need to be done because that's what they've been conditioned to do. And on the podcast, I've had the honor of having a wonderful guest on multiple times. His name is Dr. Irving Fryer. He was the #1 overall NFL draft pick in the 1984 draft. He played in the NFL for 17 seasons, multi-time Pro Bowler. So he's got lots of stats and accolades. And we talked about on the podcast, what is something that you think differentiated yourself from other people out there? And he said, I showed up even when I didn't feel like it. And I had that discipline. And so, I think we all have choices every single day. And so obviously, and some people are mindful of that and other people are not. And so the choices that you make every day impact not only you, but other people around you. And it kind of just carries on throughout the day. So it's important to be mindful, aware, and intentional with the choices that you are making. I'll give you a personal example here this morning. So I have 5 children. You mentioned Ramona. My oldest is 29. My youngest is turning 9 on Thursday. And so my youngest was here and I was giving her cereal this morning for breakfast. And I made the mistake. She was sitting on the couch. And instead of having her go on the table, I brought the bowl to the couch. Big mistake. Don't do that. And so
can imagine what happened.
And so she ended up spilling the milk and the cereal. And so she was screaming, and I was like, oh my God, and so I was like, what's going on? And she was like, I spilled it. And in that moment, I was like, you got to be kidding me. But what she saw from me was, it's okay. Go to the table. I can clean this up. No big deal. I'll get you more cereal and milk, and it'll be fine. Right. And so two things happen there. One, people are always watching how you react to things, whether you know it or not. So the impact that she and I had, if I had just gone off and complained about this, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. How is that going to impact her day? Right. So how is that going to impact people you're working with if you are having those negative reactions? So that's one. But the other thing of choosing to react the way that I did, again, in my head, I was like, ah, but outward like that, it also made me think, okay, this happened, but this will not ruin my day. Tomorrow is never promised. So I'm going to make sure that I'm still moving the ball today. I'm going to win every day, no matter what happens. And that win could be something so small, but I am not going to let something else, right, take my energy away the rest of the day because it's a little thing, right? Someone said to me before, so I'm in the Army as well, and we have our chaplain that does these words of the day, and he talked about this one time about how your worst day is someone's best day. So don't lose sight of that. So when you keep that in perspective, like, we tend to get upset over the littlest things, but in the grand scheme of things, like, there are people that would love to have the days that we have, right? And when you remember that, it makes it easier to kind of brush off things. Don't sweat those little things, and then just keep focusing on what are the things that I really need to get done today so that I can have a good day.
I love that. That's like a resume of all the things that you said before. I love that. Let's go back to the showing up, because I saw somebody mentioned that on the chat as well. What does showing up look like in a way that it really drives progress for a business professional?
Yeah. So again, first it comes to the clarity, right? Knowing what is the game you're playing? What are you trying to accomplish? And then showing up to that means making sure you understand what tasks or deliverables need to occur so that I can achieve that thing, right? So again, being clear on what are the actions, what are the tasks, who do I need to help me do this? Because oftentimes it's not just us, right? So making sure that, going back to those relationships, showing up means having those relationships, putting the effort into place to connect with people on a human level so that I have these foundational layers with people. So when I need something, they're willing to do it for me, even if they're in crunch mode on something else. If I need something, they will take care of it for me because I've built that relationship. So showing up the right way means putting that work in. And it does take work. It's not something that just happens, right? You've got to cultivate those relationships with people. And then it comes to making sure that, I am prioritizing my time every day so that I am working on the tasks that align with those priorities and shifting things if those things are in conflict with what my priorities are. But it really comes down to, just being disciplined. They talk about motivation and discipline. And motivation, it's easy to do things when you're motivated. But what happens when that motivation fades? Then it's the discipline. That's when discipline kicks in. I was last week, I attended, Forbes does this Power Women's Summit every September in New York City. And it's a one-day event, powerful speakers. And one of the things that one of the speakers talked about was the power of presence. And so being fully present is part of showing up, right? So what do I mean by being fully present? Like, you're there physically in the office, or you're on your Zoom or whatever, but it's about being actively engaged with the people that you need to interact with too. So if you're in a meeting, a physical meeting, it's a little bit different if you're on Zoom because people can't see you. But if you, per se, like, they can't see if you have other windows open. But if you're physically in a room with someone, give that person or those people your attention. Don't be on your phone. And I get, like, we've got so many things going on that it's easy to just want to, like, sit there and check out when maybe something's not of value to you and get something else done. But what is that signaling to other people? You're signaling that they're not important. What does that do to the relationship, right, that you have with people? If you're saying, hey, I'm sitting here, but I really don't care because I'm on my phone doing something else that is more important than me being here. If there is something else that's more important than you being here, maybe the question is, or the conversation is, do you need me in this meeting because I have this competing priority, right? Again, having those conversations with people, it's not to be rude, but we all know we're so busy. So how do we effectively utilize all the people we have in the organization? And maybe that meeting isn't as of value to you, so you can go do something else, but have the conversation. Maybe you can get notes from someone else, right? But instead of just saying yes and sitting in a meeting and then not being present because you're focused on something else, maybe you don't need to be there. But again, it's rethinking those things. So I hope that answered the question about showing up and just making sure that you're being intentional and that you're being present in the places you need to be.
Definitely. Thank you. Let's flip the coin. Many people wait for validation from other people before moving forward.
Yes.
How can professionals build the confidence to take action without external approval?
Yeah, I love that because as I mentioned before, when I was talking about my journey in professional sports, there were people that told me, literally, you are wasting your time. I do not think you should do this. None of these NFL players care about what you have to say. I have literally heard that, right? And so I could have said, okay, well, you're right. Let me go do something else. Or I can say, okay, I hear you. I come back to choices. I hear you. I'm going to keep moving forward. Now, for me, I've been blessed that I'm very stubborn and hard-headed. So if you're going to tell me no, I'm like, watch me, right? But I think it's important for people to know that you don't need anybody else's validation or affirmation. If something is important to you, go figure it out. Again, coming back to confidence, and my definition of it is believing in yourself and your ability to figure it out and to get there, not that, oh, well, it's removing that self-doubt and just know, like, I've got this. Surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you to move the ball. So figure out who can help me do this, right? So when it came to the sports space, I started reaching out to people, started networking. Not everybody was interested, but we hear these stories about, famous celebrities or something, and how, they had to go on 500 auditions before they got their yes or whatever. It's that persistence. It's that tenacity. It's that never giving up because something is so important to you. So the question for you is, if you're looking at doing something, how important is it to you? And if it's that important, then you figure out a way to do it, even if nobody else is on board. Well, maybe you've got the wrong circle around you for one, but you don't need anybody, just start moving. I mean, there are people that I have reached out to in the early days. So Move the Ball, the book came out in 2013. So it's been 12 years since that book came out, right? In the early days, there are people that I reached out to because I was trying to get a hold of anybody. And this is before the days that social media and technology was what it is now. And there are people that didn't see the value then, but later, after many years and them seeing the progress of the movement, they're like, oh my gosh, how can I help you? Right. So sometimes it's just not the right time for certain people, but you should never dial down your ambition because others are uncomfortable with your volume. If something is important, if it aligns with your personal values and your why not take the chance? Life's too short not to. I mentioned tomorrow's never promised, right? So at the end of the day, would you rather say, you know what, I tried this and it worked out great, or it didn't work out, versus wondering what if? So just remember that. And then also, like, not everyone is meant to be on the journey with you. I talk about this in the Dominate the Game book more than Move the Ball. But, there are people that are in your life for a season, but not in perpetuity. And I mentioned Dr. Irving Fryer earlier on the podcast. We talked about that, how too many people make the mistake of thinking that people are supposed to be in their lives forever, when sometimes they're just there for a chapter. And so someone might have been on board with something and now they're not. That's okay. Maybe it's the relationship has run its course and it's meant to be. So, I think it comes back to giving yourself permission, right? To believe in yourself, to bet on yourself, and put yourself out there. And then, it'll work out if you stay persistent and take the actions that you need to. That consistency does matter. So things don't always happen when we want them to, right? It takes time. We know that. So if it's coming back to your values and the why are you doing this? If it's important enough, you'll stick with it. If it's not, then there's your answer. It wasn't that important for you to begin with.
Wow. Yeah. There's so much in what you're saying. Wow. Whew. we are already at the end of the session. Let's zoom out a bit.
Sure.
Like while you were talking, I was just thinking how AI is reshaping the way many of us work. Sometimes it's super exciting, sometimes it's very overwhelming. And based on the strategies in your book, how can people, individuals, professionals stay adaptable and keep their confidence, keep showing up, keep moving forward, all the things that you just mentioned in a world where technology is changing so fast? Do you have an outlook on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, technology is here. It's a great thing. There's obviously, depending on elements, like people talk about the bad about social media, but technology in general is a fantastic thing. So you should really embrace the tools that are going to help you to move forward. So, like, I know in many companies, they have their own AI generated tools for productivity. Leverage those, view those as a teammate for you. When it comes to, thinking about ideas, like I'll bounce ideas off of colleagues of mine, but sometimes I'll use AI too. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Right? Just to see. And sometimes it gives me some great ideas. So embrace that, because you never know what you're going to find. And I mean, there are so many tools out there to improve your productivity. So again, like at first I was not on, a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, this AI stuff. I'm like, people are just lazy. Like, why would you use that? I can just do it all myself. And I am complete 180.
I bet you can.
Yeah. So, I mean, use it, maybe even like if you're thinking about, okay, what other skills do I need so that I can have that edge in where I want to go in my career? Ask AI, see what it might give you some thoughts on. Oh, I just think about, maybe you need to be proficient in XYZ, whatever. But, I think it's an important aspect that isn't going away. So find out how you can make it work for you. Put it in your playbook. It should be part of your plan.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jen, for sharing so many like foundational and also practical insights. And also thanks to the audience for watching and commenting. There were like a gazillion comments in the chat. Thank you so much. If you want to review the session, I know there was like really a lot in it. Please look for the recording, which will be sent to you in the next couple of days. And I encourage you, like Jen said, reflect on how the strategies apply to your own career. Like skills that you have worked on today are leading yourself, leading others, pursuing excellence, cultivating self-discipline. So congratulations for having showed up here today with us. If you have questions, don't hesitate to contact GetAbstract at corporate@getabstract.com. And also directly contact Jennifer. She is on LinkedIn. We are sharing her email address in the chat. And Jennifer kindly provides free resources to you, which you can access on her website and through her Executive Edge newsletter on LinkedIn. No strings attached. There are no subscriptions. You don't even have to enter your email address. It's really free resources. So take the chance and see what Jennifer has to offer on LinkedIn. Jennifer, thank you again for being here today. It was a great session.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time. I know your time is valuable, so I don't take that for granted that you're spending it with us today. And so I hope that you'll take what we've learned or what we've covered and you'll apply them, because it's all about the application. If you take notes, you got to take action, right? So I hope you'll take some action and really look at how you can move the ball forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. Stay tuned for further events brought to you by GetAbstract, and bye-bye. Wishing you a wonderful day.